Apollo 1. Our story begins with Apollo 1. The mission was meant to be NASA's first crewed Apollo flight, a crucial step toward landing on the moon. Astronauts Gus Grissom, Ed White, and Roger Chaffee were inside the command module during a routine test on the launch pad in January 1967. Suddenly, a spark ignited a fire inside the capsule. The astronauts tragically lost their lives. This catastrophe shook NASA to its core, forcing engineers to rethink spacecraft design, electrical safety, and emergency protocols. Apollo 1's legacy wasn't just loss, it was the foundation that made all subsequent missions safer and ultimately possible.
Apollo 4.
In November 1967, Apollo 4 soared into the sky, unmanned but monumental. It was the first flight of the Saturn V rocket, the most powerful rocket humanity had ever built. The mission tested the rocket's structure, engines, and performance under the extreme conditions of spaceflight. While the astronauts weren't aboard, the mission's success sent a clear signal. NASA was ready to carry humans farther than ever before. Apollo 5. January 1968 brought Apollo 5, an uncrewed mission that would make history in its own way. For the first time, the Lunar module, the two-stage spacecraft designed to land humans on the moon, was tested in space. The module separated, maneuvered, and performed controlled descent and ascent maneuvers. Every successful test meant one more step toward walking on another world, and NASA's engineers celebrated each success like a victory for all humankind. Apollo 6. Apollo 6 launched in April 1968 as another uncrewed test of the Saturn V. The mission faced some challenges, with vibrations shaking the rocket more than expected, but the flight proved the resilience of the vehicle. Engineers learned how to mitigate these stresses, ensuring that the first crewed Saturn V flights would be safer. Every test, every calculation brought NASA closer to the moon. Apollo 7. October 1968, Apollo 7 finally took humans into orbit aboard the newly improved spacecraft. Astronauts Wally Schirra, Don Eisel, and Walter Cunningham spent 11 days testing the command module systems. It wasn't glamorous or lunar-focused, but it was critical, proving humans could live, eat, sleep, and work in space for extended periods. Their teamwork and problem-solving laid the groundwork for the lunar missions to come. Apollo 8. Apollo 8 was nothing short of historic. Frank Borman, James Lovell, and William Anders became the first humans to leave Earth orbit, traveling 240,000 miles to the moon. They orbited the moon 10 times, capturing iconic images like Earthrise, which showed our planet as a fragile blue gem floating in the blackness of space. The mission demonstrated that humans could survive and operate far from home, a critical step toward walking on the lunar surface. Apollo 9. March 1969 saw Apollo 9 take the lunar module into Earth orbit with astronauts James McDivitt, David Scott, and Rusty Schweickart. They practiced docking maneuvers, life support operations, and rendezvous techniques, all essential for a moon landing. The crew also tested the portable life support system, the backpack that would allow astronauts to walk on the moon, proving every element of the mission was ready for the final frontier. Apollo 10. Apollo 10 was the ultimate rehearsal. Thomas Stafford, John Young, and Eugene Cernan flew the lunar module to within 15 kilometers of the moon's surface, close enough to see the dust kick up beneath their landing pods, but without touching down. The mission tested every critical maneuver for a moon landing, from separation to redocking, giving NASA the confidence needed for Apollo 11. It was literally the last step before history. Apollo 11. Then came July 1969, Apollo 11. Neil Armstrong, Buzz Aldrin, and Michael Collins embarked on humanity's most famous journey. Armstrong and Aldrin descended in the lunar module, Eagle, and stepped onto the moon's surface. Their famous words, "One small step for man, one giant leap for mankind," echoed around the world. While Armstrong and Aldrin explored, Collins orbited above, keeping the command module ready for the return journey. Apollo 11 was not just a technological triumph, it was a human one, inspiring generations to dream beyond Earth. Apollo 12. Apollo 12 proved NASA could land astronauts exactly where they wanted. Charles Conrad and Alan Bean touched down near the Surveyor 3 spacecraft, performing experiments and collecting lunar samples. Their precision landing demonstrated the skill, planning, and technology required to explore the moon in detail. Meanwhile, Richard Gordon circled above, keeping the crew and the mission safe. Apollo 13. Apollo 13 is a story of crisis and courage. James Lovell, Jack Swigert, and Fred Hayes faced a nightmare when an oxygen tank exploded en route to the moon. The mission had to be aborted, leaving the crew struggling with limited power, heat, and water. Through quick thinking, improvisation, and teamwork with mission control, they returned safely to Earth. Apollo 13 wasn't a moon landing, but it was a triumph of human ingenuity and survival under extreme pressure. Apollo 14. Apollo 14 returned humans to the lunar surface with Alan Shepard, Edgar Mitchell, and Stuart Roosa. Shepard, the first American in space, famously hit golf balls on the moon, showing the human side of exploration. The crew also conducted detailed geological experiments, drilling into the lunar soil and collecting rocks, expanding our scientific understanding of the moon's history. Apollo 15. Apollo 15 marked a new era of exploration. David Scott and James Irwin used the lunar rover to travel further than ever, collecting more diverse samples and studying lunar geology in depth. Alfred Worden orbited the moon, performing experiments and mapping the surface. The mission combined science, mobility, and adventure in a way no Apollo mission had before. Apollo 16. Apollo 16 took exploration to the moon's highlands. John Young and Charles Duke ventured across rugged terrain, examining geological formations and collecting precious lunar rocks. Thomas Mattingly, orbiting above, conducted observations that would help scientists understand the moon's composition and history. Apollo 16 brought both adventure and serious science to humanity's lunar record. Apollo 17. The final Apollo mission, Apollo 17, combined science, skill, and history. Eugene Cernan, Harrison Schmitt, the first scientist astronaut to land on the moon, and Ronald Evans took humanity one last time to our lunar neighbor. Cernan's final footprint became the last human mark on the moon's surface, while Schmitt conducted detailed geological research, bringing home samples that scientists still study today. Apollo 17 closed the chapter on the moon landings, but the spirit of exploration it embodied lives on.